And we're live. Hopefully this works. We shall see. Since we spent the bulk of month chatting in the kitchen, I just wanted to take a sec and get my thoughts for the books that I read recorded. There's no requirement to actually watch this if you don't want to, but if you are curious about the books that I read in the last month, here they are. Here are all of my thoughts on them. One of the things about the books that I read this month, you all know that I enjoy decompressing at the end of the day with manga, especially queer manga, and recently I purchased a huge pack of all these different yaoi manga bits and pieces that a friend recommended to me, and I didn't like any of them, but I read all of them. So I have like a huge glut of those, and I don't really recommend any of them, so I'm just gonna run through them really quick and only make notes where something stood out as heinous or interesting. So to start, so y'all know that I started reading the Avatar: The Last Airbender graphic novels. Those continue to be good, not stellar, not on par with the show really, but it's so nice to revisit those characters again. It's so nice to hear parts of the story that they couldn't touch into in the show. Go's mother and the fallout with Azula and where she goes, which I'm not keen on and I don't really agree with, but we do get to see more of the characters and of the show. So I got through The Promise, which is the first 3 books, and then I got through The Search, which is the next 3 books, and I think there's 13 books in all, so I'll continue reading through them as my decompression at the end of the night. I also told y'all about entering Hecate's garden, Cyndi Brannan, which was extremely soothing premise-wise and framing-wise of female empowered Greek mythology that hasn't been tainted by patriarchal Judeo-Christian bullshit over the last hundreds of years. So I really enjoy that framing, and it's more of a recipe book. It reads like a recipe book. It's about kitchen witchery. If you're into that, and even if you're not into that, it's cool to just dip in and see what Cyndi's talking about and what framing she has. If you're into Cersei and things of that vibe, which, as you know, I'm not, and I'm super mad about. I really prefer the framing that Cyndi has as Sumong Kid. I finished up the 10 volumes of Yuru. For those of you who don't know, Yuru is this lotless, ridiculous manga, anime, and live-action show that is about these high school girls that go camping at different sites in Japan. Japanese tourism board featured information, but it's cute and the content is really informative, and it's much nicer than reading a pamphlet or some shitty website. Having it in story form is really nice, and the drawings and the way they convert from reality to not get in trouble with branding stuff is funny and interesting. And reading it online, the first couple volumes have really robust translator's notes that are fantastic and have side-by-side pictures of the actual site and then the drawings and just lots of insider information about Japan and about camping and about these different things that the girls do. That is lovely. I will say 10 out of 10, I prefer the manga over the live action show. I haven't seen the anime, but the live action show is awful. I'm sorry, Scott. The live action show is just the worst because it's so bizarre. All live action renditions of manga just super rub me the wrong way because it's always adults playing high schoolers, and especially for Yuru, these women are in their 30s. They have this divorcee vibe, and I'm all about some sapphic divorcee camping action in Japan. I will watch that all day. But there's already some queer baiting in Yuru, and then where the show takes it is just, it doesn't sit right with me. And having humans try to act out manga expressions and stuff, and that they stay really close to the manga in the show, and it just doesn't play well. It just feels gross. And then Rin's very deadpan vibe in the show comes across like she's about to unalive herself. So there's this searing dread of what's going to happen with this main character while we were watching the show. And that's not in the manga at all. In the manga, she's just deadpan, but really sweet and warm. And this little high schooler who's doing her own thing in camping. So that was great. Finished that up, and I'm getting the volumes in print for the kids, so I'll be continuing to read that, but I won't continue writing it down. But the kids really like it too, and I think it's good for them for when they go to Japan and go camping when they're older. I read Queerly Autistic, the Erin Ekins book. That was great. I really enjoyed it as it's nonfiction, source material. There's a lot of individual stories from people, and there's a lot of really informative, it feels like a good version of the guidance counselor guiding queer kids and queer autistic kids. I was really happy with that, especially after the shitty ones that I read last month. You have young queer autistic kids coming up, or even young queer kids or young autistic kids that don't necessarily have all of the intersections at play. I think it's a great book for them to get exposure to all these different ideas and ways of being, and know that they're all okay, and this is how they can look, and this is how those experiences can play out for certain people. I can't say enough good things about it. I finished the trilogy from Helen Hoang with The Heart Principle. I didn't like it as much as the previous two. Just has that same vibe of trashy romance, reading it to be deeply changed or moved, but it was sweet. It was sweet in the same way that all modern romance is. And there's always autistic characters because Helen herself is autistic. She's Asian American, Pacific Islander. She's awesome. And the poor woman just keeps getting put on panels with these assholes in autistic fiction who are not autistic themselves, are white men who don't know what the fuck they're talking about and have written autistic coded or autistic characters based on their expertise from having worked around autistic people and not actually gotten any feedback from autistic people about it, so fuck them. And she deals with those panels and those situations with aplomb and with grace, and I just hate that that's like her life. And so I will buy everything that Helen makes, whether I like it or not, because I want to support her. I read a bunch of classic plays, Medea, Euripides, The Tempest, Shakespeare, The Imaginary Invalid, Moliere, Camille, Dumas, An Enemy of the People, Ibsen, Arms and the Man, George B. Shaw, Uncle Vanya, Anton Chekov. Those were all good. They exist in my head as Wishbone episodes, so it was cool seeing the source material. And yeah, I don't really have much to say about it. We were exposed to them in high school. Wishbone does a great job. That's all I have to say about those. I read One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston from Trish's recommendation. I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much as her Red, White, and Royal Blue, but I love the sapphic rep. It had some problematic elements. I enjoy that she had the little fantasy sci-fi sprinkled on top, but it felt really distracting for me. I know that's the main drive of the novel, that they're trying to figure out this mystery, way that it was explained at the end and that the book kind of like hinged on that. I didn't enjoy that so much. The development of that relationship was kind of interesting, kind of nice. Just any representation I'll fucking eat up, so. So I read it. I would read it again. I can't recommend it. Oh, this is such a great book. But yeah, read it if you like ladies who like ladies. I read Beyond the Gender Binary by Alok Vaid-Menon. That was okay. It was just a little short brochure for kids. I didn't gain anything from it, but I've been consuming a lot of this stuff because my friend asked me for recommendations, so I'm trying to find the ones that are good that I can recommend. I think it might be good for really young kids who are new. Can't recommend it for people our age, but I think it would be good for people who are very young, preteens, and new to gender expression conversation. I read Rosewater, Tade Thompson. I am so glad it exists. That genre is not my cup of tea at all, so I can't say I enjoyed it. But I enjoyed it more than I would other content from that genre because of the representation and because of the voice, and it's something I haven't seen before. For Sean, who has just started getting into military sci-fi and urban fantasy, I recommended it so that he could have some more exposure and different voices and perspectives coming through. I think that recommendation would go over well for anybody who's into that. I read Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. I did not enjoy it for the same reason I didn't enjoy Circe. Jennifer did better than Madeline, but there was still, okay, these are the shitty patriarchal stories that have been handed down. We get it. This is what you read from Edith Hamilton. You're telling it with some more words. I didn't see the point. There were some elements that were new and interesting, but the whole framing is fucked. We gotta get over that. Start telling better stories. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. Finally I read Howl's Moving Castle, Diana Wynne Jones, and I loved it. It's so funny going from having a strong attachment to the movie to actually reading the source material, because there's so many things that are different. Like Howl is Welsh. His special world, the black knob on the dial, is Wales. His family playing ball. Ooh, it's so different. Magical Wales. So that was really fun, and I super recommend it. I wound up reading it twice, and I feel like I could reread that every year. I'm excited to introduce the kids to it once they get a little older. I read Crazy Stupid Bromance. I actually went through and I read all of the 4 novels in Lissa K. Adams' Romance Book Club series, because I was talking about it at a conference, and I love the premise, and I love why she wrote it. She wrote it in response to the election in 2016, the outcome of that, and the scandal and difficulty of being female in that environment. She wanted to write about nourishing masculinity and what she feels like that would look like. And for her, that includes a group of men reading romance novels and teaching each other and learning and developing their own relationships based on what they read. It's a fun premise. I am super into the whole vibe of a found family group of friends helping each other develop themselves. I'll eat up anything of that ilk. I'm not super into romance. I've been reading a ton of romance this year because it's my first time writing it, but it's not something that I easily fall into and enjoy. So it was a cool primer of all the different tropes and things that are present in romance. It's a nice intro for people who aren't yet familiar with romance, and I imagine it would be nice for people who already are really well versed in romance to see how these men encounter it and relate to it and learn and grow from it. I can recommend it. It's another thing, like, it's not going to change your life, but it's fun, and it's a nice little escape for a minute. There's some gross stuff, and I notice a lot of female writers doing this. They're trying to be empowering, and they're trying to overcome the bullshit that we go through as women. Yeah, we need to talk about it, but you're inflicting the same trauma and making villains and having them in your work. Do we need to keep doing that? Is there maybe a different way that we could go about it other than, ooh, there's these spooky boogeymen of these terrible men who run around doing all these horrible things and we know better, but they are so terrible. I would just love if we could imagine a world where, fuck those people. Let's just imagine a world where they don't exist and don't keep doing their terrible things, or maybe grow and evolve. Let's find their way forward. I'm burnt out on the women getting punched in the trauma as a plot point. Specifically as a plot point, a hinge for the narrative. Just super tired of it. I read All Systems Red from Martha Wells. I read all of the Murderbot Diaries. They were recommended to me from someone at the conference, and they've been recommended to me so much, and I just kept avoiding it because I don't care about military sci-fi. I didn't really want to read about someone called Murderbot. Not in my purview of things that sound nice, but I fucking loved it. Y'all were right. The representation is amazing. The thing that finally sold me on it, if you need to sell additional people to Murderbot, is it's a rogue security bot that doesn't want to be human. Interesting, tell me more. The second piece that got me into it was, it starts off with a bunch of novellas. It's mostly novellas, and they're 3-hour audiobooks. Sold. If you listen at 3x, that's 1 hour. I can do that while I'm doing the dishes and listening to it. And after I read that first one, it was so neatly packaged and nourishing and just exciting with the world building and how lush everything is and how carefully considered, and the humor and friendliness, and it was so easy to attach and to get invested. I love it. I love Martha. I'm so excited. Thank you, Joe, for introducing me. And fuck yeah, Murderbot. Read it. Here begins the super long list of BL manga that I read. The package was billed as yaoi manga, but there's a lot of BL. It's $11.50. I read through 30 volumes of Absolute Obedience, which was god-awful and really shitty consent-wise. Almost all of these have just shitty stuff consent-wise and shitty representation of actual queer relationships and queer culture, because Japan is 10-20 years behind that element of social progress. That's what that looks like. A lot of these also seem old. Maybe they were written in the 90s to 2000s. I'm not sure if they were, but that's the vibe that I get from them. A love story between my boss and I, Blooming Doll, Escape, which was based on a video game. It's from the person who wrote the video game. They just put together a manga of all the stories of all the characters that were in the video game. It was really confusing. I didn't know who anybody was. There's like 10 characters, and if you played the video game in the 90s and really liked it, you'd probably enjoy the manga, but I didn't get anything from it. And then I read Ace by Angela Chen, which was fantastic. The representation is great, the research, the way she has it organized, the way she thoroughly discusses each aspect. I loved it. Angela did the shit out of her work. God bless her. That is such a useful, nourishing, exciting piece of work. Fuck yeah, check out that book. It's great. I read All Systems Red again. I read all the Martha Wells books twice because I wanted to thoroughly understand why and how they were so awesome, because I was talking about them at that conference. Hachiritsu, I read through. I have 9 volumes written down, but I think I read through more that I had to dig around online to find. I wouldn't recommend it. It's one of the super slow burn, very PG ones where it's, are these people in a relationship? Are they interested in each other? Or is it just, oh, longing glances? Oh, the fucking Yuri manga where, are these people even friends? What's happening here? I read Artificial Condition from Martha Wells twice, Rogue Protocol I read twice, Exit Strategy, Network Effect twice, and then Honey Sword, which was not great. It's about these kendo kids and their relationship, and it's very confusing and has weird shitty consent stuff, but I read 5 or 6 volumes of that. How to Flirt with Sensei, Matching Our Answers, there was a bunch of those. The Unavoidable Dolce, which was cute. I really enjoyed that one. Scott recommended me a drama that had a feature of kombini sweets and developing them and liking them and posting on Instagram reviews of them. There's a whole culture around it, maybe, or maybe it was just in that show. We were watching that around the same time that I read The Inviolable Dolce, and so that was fun. That was a nice pairing. I love, maybe I should say the artist names for all these. Like Uni Shindo was the one for I Love. Mio Minami was the one for The Inviolable Dolce. They're all the boys love yaoi manga things. And Fugitive Telemetry from Martha Wells. I overcame my autism and all I got was this lousy anxiety disorder by Sarah Kerchak. I did not want to read it based on that title, based on the cover and the way people were talking about it, but I had someone that wanted to know if it was good or not, or if it was safe to read, but I really enjoyed it. It's just a collection of blog articles from this autistic lady, and it rocks, and it's really nice to hear her personal stories. I resonated with a lot of it. I'm autistic myself. I think she did a really great job. The marketing for it sucks. The actual content was great, so enjoyed that. I read Howl's Moving Castle again. How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole. That was okay. I don't remember feeling surprised or inspired by it, but I read it. Matching Our Answers, more of those. Service Life. Survivor's Guilt, Since the Day I Met You, Sweeter Than Dessert, You Haven't Seen the Best of Me. These are all yaoi manga things. You Haven't Seen the Best of Me. There was 21 volumes that I read, and just the whole time, what the fuck is the point of this? It might be a trans story. It might be a transvestite story. It might just be making fun of transvestite. I don't know what's happening with that. It might just be a gay story and the boy having a tough time finding a way to connect with the other boy and trying all these different things. I really didn't like that. But it's a very slow burn. Like I said, I read 21 volumes of it and still, what's happening here? Are these people going to have any sort of relationship, even a friendship at any point? What? I read Left Hand of Darkness again. I still have some feelings about it. Had a tough time following. I love Ursula. I love her so hard. And I need to be in a very focused headspace to really appreciate her work. And I was not. I was listening to it while doing a bunch of other things. I want to spend more time with that. I'll talk about it more when I have more time to devote to it. I read The Girl Next Door by Chelsea M. Cameron. I did not like that at all. It's a sapphic romance and feels very YA. There's a vibe of Manor lobster culture. I get that it's YA and that's just probably not my taste, but I didn't like it and I want better representation. We just need more queer stories, so I don't have to hang all of my needs and expectations on these people that are just trying to write a fun book. you get to write queer and mediocre fiction. You get to. And I'll still buy it. And I'll still support you and check out your stuff from the library. That book in particular, I can't recommend. I read King of Winter from Ursula K. Le Guin. That was really cool. The collection that's in was recommended to me from my friend that runs the Diversity Wellness Book Club, Diversity Wealth Book Club. I'm looking forward to getting through the rest of that collection. I wasn't able to get the whole collection in time. I was only able to get that story and a couple others, but I have the whole collection now, so I'm gonna be going through that. I read Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine from Gail Honeyman, and I really enjoyed it. I had such a tough time with it starting out, but it was recommended to me from somebody at the conference, and I just wanted to read it to be able to speak with them about it. So that pulled me through the whole thing, and having gone through the whole thing, now I love it. And I really like the way they showed her healing through trauma and her progression through it. Because at the beginning, you're traumatized by it. Oh God, this is a very unpleasant person. I don't want to be in her head. It was a very restorative, healing, nourishing book. I can recommend that. More You Haven't Seen the Best of Me garbage. You, My Dearest, Crying in My Apartment. Your Rhythm, My Rhyme. And then I read The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. That was wonderful. I read it twice. I loved it. I was listening to it in audiobook while walking through Trader Joe's, and I've been sheltered at home for so long now that was a really big moment for me. And it was so nice. I really enjoyed it. The story, the development. It was very Hilda meets X-Men. Nice queer representation. Very sweet, very quirky and voicey, and I recommend it. Read it if you haven't yet. I read Improv for Writers by Georgiana Marie. I can't recommend that. It's a craft book. Improv is cool, writing is cool, but the book itself, the way that it was structured and some of the exercises that she ran you through, someone was recommending it at that conference as their favorite book, and yeah, it just wasn't for me. I read Let's Play, the webtoon. I read through all of it. Leanne M. Krechik is the name of the artist, and there are some issues in it as well, like relation-wise and consent-wise and structure, but hopefully it becomes a reverse harem. It's what it's billed as, but it might be queer baiting for polyam. I don't know if anything's gonna actually develop. One of the characters that was supposed to be a love interest just totally crapped out and became awful, and I'm still upset about it and haven't quite processed it. I really don't like how that was handled, and if it's going to be a reverse harem thing, she's going to have to do a lot of repair work with that plot line. Yucko. It's enjoyable, it's ongoing. Check it out if you're interested in tech geek girl having a reverse harem of hot guys from various backgrounds. There's a lot of cute internet culture references. I think the artist herself is based in Seattle, so it's very manga style, but it's very Americanized as well, but not representation and relationship and consent culture wise, unfortunately. Hopefully she does better as it goes on. Undercover Bromance, another one from the Bromance Book Club series, and Isn't It Bromantic, another one from the Bromance Book Club series. Yeah, I can't say any more about that than I already have. The Avatar books. I read through all of Painter of the Night by Bionduck. That was absolutely fantastic. It has serious issues, consent-wise and relationally, like power dynamics-wise, but the art is beautiful and it references the Beauty and the Beast narrative. I don't know if this is intentional or if anybody else would see it, but I see it clear as day. Oh, this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, only with men. And like that just, yes, thank you. Queer Beauty and the Beast, sign me up. So that's amazing. And the world building is fascinating and amazing. Like the artist clearly did a ton of research. It's set in Korea in like the 1100s. And the costuming and the art, my friends, the expression and gesture, and it's just, it's all so good. And I was introduced to it from a meme that was shared in a sapphic group that I'm in. It's a male queer story, but in the sapphic group, there were just these images of them kissing, and the art is so beautiful. It's just very soft, and the line work is, fantastic. And I guess somebody thought it was women kissing and shared it in the Sapphic group. And then somebody knew it and commented that. And so then I was able to find the comic and I read all of it. And it's ongoing as well. Looking forward to see how that develops. Hopefully there's some positive development in it. I don't know. But if there is, then it'll be even better. I read through all of My Dragon Girlfriend, which is another web series, webcomic. That one's cool. It's very bubblegummy and squeaky clean, and there's some issues relation-wise and culture-wise, but they're all sapphic. It's kind of like ecchi content. It's all these monster girls and then them having sapphic relationships. So it's a nice twist on the male gaze version of most monster girls. It's sweet. I like it. I'd recommend it. It's only released one panel at a time. It's slow going to get through the narrative if you're waiting every week for 2 panels, because I think she releases twice a week. But it's super cute. And there's a ton out there already, so you can get a good chunk of narrative in. I hate reading things that are still ongoing because I just want to read the whole story and be able to have an opinion about it and have a feeling about it. I read Castle in the Air from Diana Wynne Jones, which was really sweet but had a lot of issues content-wise. And I think that's just a factor of the time and where she was writing and what was okay then and there. But it was really cool to read that alongside the Daevabad trilogy, which I'll talk about later, because where Diana Wynne Jones misstepped with representation and appropriation, S.A. Chakraborty did a really nice job because she's a historian. That's her whole interest. And she's a Muslim revert herself. So the representation was a lot better. Wherever I bounced off of that, I was served and nourished well by the Daevabad trilogy. And I will just read anything Diana writes now. I'm so fascinated and excited, and I have a ton of stuff on her bookshelf now. You'll be hearing a lot more from me about her in the next month or two. I read Queenie from Candice Carty-Williams. That fucking rocked. That's a really good example of having trauma and having the difficult shit that women have to put up with, but having it in a really empowering way. It felt real, but the story didn't hinge on plot devices related to women being traumatized. We just got to see Queenie's development, and we got to see Queenie's point of view, and we got to see her progression and where she was coming from, and cheer her on the whole way, and see her get some fucking therapy and lean on her friends and have a friend really do her dirty. And we also got some content of biracial friendships and maybe a little learning about how we can be better allies as white people, how we fuck up. It was so good. I cannot recommend Queenie enough. And I just want to see everything that Candice comes out with now, because fucking she rocks. The voiciness of it and getting that insight into the UK Black experience, especially female experience. Fuck yeah. I read My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness from Nagata Kahabi. Finally, it was depressing and difficult to get through, and my heart just goes out to her and I resonate with it so much, but it was also really difficult to read, so I cannot recommend that as a nice decompression comic read. Like, it's not even as lighthearted as the girl with bipolar disorder, and that meme is everywhere. Oh, is she bipolar or OCD? There's that meme that's around everywhere, like, do all the things with the like spiky yellow hair. It's not as cute as that, and it's not as funny and sweet and resonant as Bechdel at all. But I think it's a really important work, especially coming from a Japanese artist. I would definitely recommend that, to have it on your bookshelf and be aware of it and consume it, but it's not a light read. I read Tarnished Are the Stars by Rosie Thor. I saw her speak at a conference and I just wanted to support her and her work. It was not my cup of tea, but it's not really my genre, so I'm not going to speak too much about it. Support her if you look at it and it seems like something you would enjoy. I read Writing the Other from Nishi Shah. That was really good. I'm glad I read it. It's a collection of articles. Glad I read it. I learned a bit from it. I feel like I could read it again and again and learn more each time, so I'm going to do that. I read City of Brass, Kingdom of Copper, and Empire of Gold from S.A. Chakraborty. The whole Daevabad trilogy I got through in a couple days because I wanted to talk about it with some other friends, and it was awesome. I had to get through it so quickly because When I first started reading it, this is awesome. This is the best thing of its kind that I've read. And so I immediately started telling all these people about it. And they were like, well, do you recommend it? And well, how is it asking me these specific questions about it? Okay, well, I just have to get through the whole thing so that I can have a completely informed opinion about it. So I just burned through the whole thing. And then I wound up listening to it twice to get all the details and make sure that I was fully understanding everything that was going on. And I can't recommend it enough. She wrote it for herself. She's a historian, she's a Muslim revert, and she was really frustrated about a lot of stories about Muslim folklore, or is it Islamic folklore? I don't know when you use which word, so I'm fucking up, but bear with me. But she was really frustrated that in a lot of that content, there are disrespectful elements to it. They really fuck up on a lot of points. This would not be okay in our religion. This is not part of our culture. Why are you writing this? This is terrible. You're using these elements of our culture and just appropriating them and then doing your bullshit with them. So she wrote her own story, and it's this really robust fantasy trilogy with Muslim Islamic folklore. I can't recommend it enough. It's great. And it's got romance, it's got adventure, it's got development, there's a female protagonist. Fuck yeah, all of it is great. And it's a female writer as well, and just fuck yeah. I read Story Genius from Lisa Cron, and I've actually been going through it really thoroughly again and again and again. It feels helpful, but I can't give a thorough review and recommend it until I've used it. With all the craft books, as soon as I read it, I have to use it. I'll be able to give a more thorough review of it next month once NaNoWriMo's over, because I'm using it as a framework for my NaNoWriMo book, or one of them. I read through the Search trilogy, the 3 books of the Search for the Avatar graphic novels. I read A Wrinkle in Time from Madeline L'Engle, and right now I'm reading the graphic novel of it. I already like the graphic novel better, even though it's the same story. The voiciness is great. It's so sweet. I totally get why it's a classic. It's not my cup of tea, just because the ultimate framing of it and the things that it touches on aren't things that I personally agree with or want to pass down to my kids and have as their framework of how they view the universe and the world. But I get it, and I totally get why it's so beloved. Then I read Our Bodies Ourselves from the Boston Women's Health. It is very thorough, y'all. It is so motherfucking thorough. It's like 1,000 pages long. Just this huge fucking tome of everything about women's health. It's a baby book from Dr. Sears for women, and it just has all the shit. And I think it's really important that we have it. I would recommend it to anybody who is going to have female experiences in their body, vaginal, estrogen, breast experiences in their body. Any and all of the above. It was difficult reading and getting through because it's reading a dictionary. It had so much good content that I didn't want to put it down because I didn't want to forget about it or just miss out. I just slogged through the whole thing and was really miserable about it and complaining a lot. I'm sorry to my friends that I complained about it with, but I really wanted to focus on NaNoWriMo. And motherfuck, I started this 1,000-page book. I didn't realize it was so long because it was recommended to me from someone. And oh yeah, this seems great. Didn't realize how long and very, very comprehensive it was. I super recommend it. Just don't start reading it if you're a person that needs to finish things and you got other shit to do. I read Kiki's Delivery Service from Aiko Kodono. Awesome, really cool. Even more so than House Moving Castle. Seeing the source material for Kiki was really affirming and cool. I love Miyazaki. He feels like my grandpa. You cannot convince me otherwise. However, Tombo can eat shit. That whole piece of Kiki, if I could just delete that, I would be a happier person. And the book is really good for that. And it's just so much more of Kiki's story and seeing her and the way all the different plot points are foreshadowed in the book. It's just really very well done. Loved it. Couldn't recommend it enough. And the framing as well of her mother being a witch, all of these magical practices falling away and being forgotten, and her father being human and an expert in mythology and witch folklore, and having studied it and then marrying a witch himself, I just think is super sweet and exciting. I love that framing. And then I read House of Many Ways from Diana Wynne Jones. I didn't enjoy that as much as the others. I wasn't paying all of my attention to it either. but there were just some elements of it that are not super exciting for me in the world of fantasy and folklore. But if you're really into kobolds, that's right up your alley. And it was very house and domestic stuff oriented. If you're into that, might be super fun. And then I also read The Gifts of Imperfection, again from Brené Brown, because we're talking about it in our Diversity Elf book club. And I listened to all the podcasts from the sisters talking about it and working through the guideposts as well to help prepare for the book club tonight is when we're having that book club. So that's it. That's all the things that I read this month. I glutted myself on reading this month since I knew that NaNoWriMo was coming up and I wouldn't have a chance to read for a while. That's my glut, and thank you for listening.